Okay, it looks like people are probably moving over now from the main county meeting. The numbers are quickly jumping. So we'll welcome more members from the community as they make their way over from the county meeting, and I will share my screen. Some of you are probably sick of seeing this, but we want to ensure that everyone that joins us tonight selects their globe icon, the interpretation icon, and selects Spanish or English, whatever language you wish to participate in tonight. I'll leave that up one more minute. We do have two Spanish interpreters on the line with us tonight from Boulder County community, so we're grateful for them and their work for us this evening. Panelists will want to make sure that they've also selected a language. And if you've just joined us, welcome. And if you have any questions this evening, we're taking all questions in the Q&A. The chat is turned off. If you have any technical Zoom related questions, you can send them to me in the Q&A as well.
So Allison, will you tell me when you're ready for me to begin my remarks?
Yep, I'm just watching these numbers. Let's see. Okay, I will start the recording. Oh, it's recording. Okay. I think we'll be ready to begin. I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Allison Eklund. I'm with the City of Boulder. Happy to help out tonight with the Zoom aspects of the meeting. And I will repeat one more time, I see more numbers going up, that we are using interpretation this evening for this meeting. So if you've just joined us, you're going to want to find the interpretation globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom menu, and you will need to select a language, English or Spanish, whichever you prefer to participate in this evening. Even if it's English, you will still want to select that. And then one final reminder to the speakers to speak slowly, take a breath. Okay. And I'll now turn it over to the mayor.
So I would like to first start off by introducing myself. My name is Ashley Stolzman. I'm the mayor of Louisville. And on behalf of the entire city council, we want to extend our deepest sympathies to everyone who is directly impacted and the entire community at this time. With me tonight on screen, you can see Mayor Pro Tem Maloney and also Ward 3 council member. From Ward 1, we have Council Member Dickinson and Council Member Chris Lay. In Ward 2, we have Council Member Most, and I expect to be joined by Council Member Fahey any minute. And in Ward 3, Mayor Pro Tem Maloney represents Ward 3 along with Council Member Kyle Brown. So thank you to council who's been working around the clock to get things back in order. And we are joined by our professional staff, which is led by our city manager, Jeff Durbin. And on the screen right now, you can see our planning and building safety director, Lisa Ritchie. The staff are working very hard for the community to try to restore critical services and safety and to try to get answers for everyone. We don't have all the answers right now. And what we're trying to do is collect questions and problems that you are all facing and work to address those. So thank you for your patience. We are working as quickly as we can, and we can understand the frustrations that you're experiencing right now. We all live here too. Every person on the screen was evacuated. We're joined tonight by some other elected officials in our breakout because they live here too. Our County Commissioner, Matt Jones, was evacuated. He's on the call and lives here. Our House Rep, Tracy Burnett, was pre-evacuated and lives here. And our Congressman Joe Neguse was evacuated and lives here. So, this is very close to home for people. And we all, as part of the community, want to get things back. We're going to get through this together. And it's going to be a team effort, but it won't always be easy. So just know that we're all here for you. And we want to give you some information tonight and then hear from you. We won't be able to get through everyone's questions tonight. We're going to do the best that we can. And questions that remain, we'll give you some email addresses and some contact information so that you can get those questions to us and we can work on answering them. So I'll start off by turning it over to our city manager, Jeff Durbin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I started this position the day this all started. So I haven't been here very long, and it's just been really a tragic and heartbreaking way to start something that I was really excited about, coming to this community. I can't tell you how heartbreaking this has been. It's a real tragedy, and how incredible and incredibly I'm impressed by all of our staff that have been working so hard, tirelessly through this, practically 24/7 to do everything we can for this community. We'll have our police chief and fire chief speak next, but just briefly, a couple things I wanted to point out. Insurance, underinsurance, insurance issues has been a topic of discussion. We actually hosted 4 neighborhood meetings today of 4 heavily impacted neighborhoods. So we heard from, I think, about 600 of our residents this afternoon, and insurance was a topic of many questions. And I want to just put it out there that we're already talking to the Division of Insurance and working to, do whatever we can to make sure that people are treated fairly by insurance companies and get a fair and reasonable settlement, because this is going to be very important. I'm really excited, if you will, to note that as this whole 6 o'clock meeting started, we released a press release that our boil order is now lifted. So that's one small victory for our residents that are able to occupy their homes. For those that aren't able to or have smoke damage, we do still have water pickup at the rec center. This entire organization, I can assure you, is committed to the community, is committed to recovery, and committed to doing everything we can to move forward. We will get through this. It's going to be hard work, but we're going to work tirelessly, and we're here with you. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, City Manager. And so we're going to turn it over for our Police Chief, Dave Hayes, to make some comments now. And Chief Hayes is a resident of Louisville. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. First, thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. As the mayor pointed out, I happen to be the police chief, but I've also been a resident of the city of Louisville for, I think, almost 33 years now. So I understand the heartbreak of what's occurred in our community. So I've just got a couple of official kind of announcements, and I think there'll be time for maybe questions later. First, the evacuation order and reentry. The city lifted the evacuation order yesterday. The entire city is open to residents, including what were our hard closure areas. Hard closure areas, though, are only open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. due to safety concerns. We just want to make sure there's enough light out there. The city is providing placards for residents to access these areas. Placards should be displayed on the front dashboard of your vehicle. And these placards can be picked up from Ascent Church from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we plan on running that at least through this coming Monday. We're also asking residents to be careful when returning to your property, as there may still be hot areas and hazardous materials. For more guidance, please visit the city's website at www.city.louisville.gov. louisvilleco.gov/Marshallfire and scams. I also want to talk a little bit about scams. We are hearing reports of various scams in the aftermath of this disaster. If you get a phone call about an insurance claim or policy, please don't give out your personal information or agree to any payment until you can independently verify that the call is legitimate. You may also encounter contractors and home improvement companies claiming to be partners with your insurance provider. Never give policy numbers, coverage details, or other personal information to companies with whom you have not entered into a contract. Please look at the city's website for additional guidance around scams and how to verify legitimate requests. And then maybe last but not least, as you return to your neighborhoods, if you see something that's suspicious or out of place, the Louisville Police Department is continuing to respond to calls as we have since the beginning of this. Please call the communications center, of course, 911 and an emergency. And for those non-emergency calls, 303-441-4444. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, and thank you and the team for working so hard these last days during the emergency. And so next, this evening, we're going to hear from our fire chief, Chief Wilson. And let me see that Chief Wilson is on and has been promoted to panelist. Sorry for the delay, folks. Chief Wilson?
I will look for him over in attendees.
All right, we'll go back to Chief Wilson when we get him all sorted out and logged on, making sure that he got the right Zoom link for the meeting. So for the time being, we'll skip over the fire response and we'll go to our Planning and Building Director, Lisa Ritchie.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. So we'll cover damage assessments through the fire discussion, but if you have questions on that, reach out to our department, particularly if you have any placards that have been placed on your property. So, all affected homes have either a red, green, or yellow tag on your property. If your home is fully destroyed, you do not need a building inspector, although you do need to take all precautions as noted on kind of public health and safety. However, if you have another tag on your property, a green tag or a yellow tag, please contact the building department and we will coordinate with you individually on how, if, and when you are able to access your home. The best way to reach our department is 303-335-4584 or building@louisvilleco.gov. So again, any questions on damage on your property, please contact us directly. In addition to all the damage assessments, we are actively working in developing rebuilding processes. So we are looking at permitting requirements and what steps are ahead of you all to get back home. We are intending to develop a permitting track that is specifically for fire affected property owners so that you have the resources and access you need to get the best information to help you in these circumstances. So look for information in coming days and weeks as we develop those. But more immediately, we are planning online meetings next Tuesday for affected homeowners as well as building professionals to talk more in depth about what we're working on, what your questions are, and how we can help get you home. So please keep an eye out for email invitations specifically to affected homeowners if you've connected with us through those channels. And for the development community, they can find the meeting invitations on our bigger Marshallfire communications. As well as what we're working on right now, we are looking at potential building code changes, as well as zoning and other policy code changes that we can evaluate to help facilitate and encourage you all to rebuild here in Louisville and help make that an efficient process and financially feasible where we are able. So we're actively evaluating all of that now, and City Council will be having discussions around some of those items in the coming weeks. That's all for me, Mayor, right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to check with the folks who are helping with the Zoom if we've been able to find the fire chief. I see you. Hi, Chief Wilson. I'm glad you were able to join us this evening. Welcome. And please tell the community what you'd like to tell them.
Thank you very much. I apologize. I had some technical difficulties and got lost in the Zoom land. So good evening, public and city council and mayor and city staff. John Wilson, Louisville Fire Protection District, the fire district that protects and saves lives here in Louisville. My department extends their deepest feelings to the community and everyone that's been affected in this fire, the people that have lost homes and memories and pets and so on. So currently, the Marshallfire is 6,800 acres. It is 100% contained around the perimeter at this time. The whole fire, we had one fatality at this time. We have one still missing, and the sheriff's department is working on those kind of trying to find that person. We had 3 injuries, they're very minor to the firefighters. In the city of Louisville, residentials, 550 homes were destroyed, 43 were damaged. Commercials, there were 4 destroyed and 14 damaged. The incident started off, of course, in another fire district and ran its way into the Superior community and then crossed 36 and into our community. Most of the times in those situations, the local fire districts are in charge of the fire. As the complexity of the fire and the needed resources that were ordered were coming in, it quickly goes from what we call a type 4, type 5 incident, which locals can handle, to a type 3. The type 3 team is a Boulder County team made up of a number of people in the Boulder County area. They took over the fire at approximately about 3 p.m. And then quickly understood that this was going to tax them. And so they ordered a type 1 team, and the type 1 team took over the next day. Currently, we're still being run by a type 1 team, but with lots of local input and resources. We're getting to a point where we feel comfortable where the fire districts are going to be taking this fire back over, I should say, come tomorrow evening. We have been running all medical calls in the whole town still, even during the fires. We've been running fire alarms, and anything outside the fire perimeter we've been handling. Now that with this much snow and things kind of settling down, most of the utilities getting back online, we feel that we can start handling the call volume again with everything in the city. With that, I believe that's all I have to report at this time. And I'll turn it back over to Mayor Stolzmann.
Thank you very much, Chief Wilson, for the update. And so I'll turn it back to the city manager's office to ask if there are any other updates.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple other comments. We are posting actively news and information on our website, louisvilleco.gov. At the top of the page is a red banner. There's a link to the Marshall Fire page. You can find all sorts of hopefully helpful information to you there. If you are an impacted or affected property owner in Louisville, if you haven't already, call our call center or check in at the DAC at our table there so we can get your contact information so we can connect with you directly as things happen, as we go forward. We're trying to keep things brief so that we can have more time for question and answer and comments. But I will note we had those 4 neighborhood meetings today, and we plan on posting those on our website so you can view those and all the conversations that happened earlier today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager Durbin. And so this will turn us to our question comment period for questions that are not related to debris because the person, Darla, who's going to help us with debris is in the other meeting right now. When she comes over, we'll shift over to let her talk and then answer some questions about debris. And so I'll start with the first question that we got asked and work down. And we might not get through all these questions tonight, but we will work to get answers posted on our website and work through these. So the first question is from Jim. Jim's a resident of an apartment community in Louisville that's less than a half mile to a mile from the major burn area, despite being warned about the presence of... Yes. Sorry about that. So despite being warned about the presence of contaminated wildfire ash and soot in the HVAC and ductwork, the property managers turned off the heat in each unit, forcing already contaminated air through the system, endangering each and every unit. The question is, what resources do renters have to hold property managers accountable for safety, remediation, and assessing warrant of habitability violations? Thank you. And I'll turn it to our city manager.
I do not have a good answer for that question.
So
The Colorado Division of Housing would be a good start, I think. But I'll make a note of this and we can try to get something posted on that.
Thank you. So there are going to be many questions that we don't have the answers to right away. And so thank you for asking them, and we'll work on it, and we'll work on getting answers to residents. If you don't feel like you see an answer posted, please do email us at the marshallfire@louisvilleco.gov website email address, because we do want to get answers to questions like that. And that's a very important question, Jim. So thanks for bringing it to our attention. The next question was, does the hot water heater need to be drained as well as the cold water pipes? Asking for mother-in-law. I was exchanging messages with our chief water officials when the message came through. And so they mentioned that they were going to update the FAQs on the website to include the hot water heater so people would know. But it is important to flush any plumbing that was stagnant. So a hot water heater that wasn't running would be stagnant, and you will want to run water through that. So we will get an update posted for you on the hot water heater on the website, but you are going to want to flush any systems like ice cube trays, refrigerator lines, or hot water heaters that were sitting without running. The next question is, I'd like to know if the city or county will require a clear deadline of each homeowners association to provide homeowners with any design rebuild requirements and restrictions. And I'll turn that to Lisa Ritchie, our Planning and Building Director.
Sure, thanks, Mayor. So generally speaking, the city does not have authority over kind of what and how HOAs operate. That being said, we do have and are intending to continue to develop relationships with our HOAs here in the city, and we'll certainly keep those lines of communication open to assist where we can when conflicts arise.
Thank you. There are some questions about unincorporated county and water in the unincorporated county areas. And so I'm sorry if you're in unincorporated county or in Superior, we don't necessarily know the answers with the staff that are at this meeting, but we'll be sure to make these questions forwarded on to the folks from those communities so they can get them posted and answered. The next question is, a community member still does not have gas service at their home. The line was cut at the house before them on the street. They've contacted Excel multiple times, but the line has not been repaired. Is there someone we can contact to fix the gas pipe? And I'll turn that to City Manager Durbin.
Yeah, if you'll send us an email to that Marshall Fire email address that Planning Director can help me with, I think we can get that to Public Works. Public Works has been coordinating closely with Excel on all of these turn-ons, and they've had over 600 people in the area the last couple, 3 days. So they've got a lot of crews out here, and I'm sure we can help you with that.
Director Ritchie, will you please repeat the email?
Sure. So email for questions is Marshallfire, all one word, marshallfire@louisvilleco.gov.
Thank you. And just so folks know, there's a hotline that the city staff have set up that they've mentioned, and a webpage on that you can reach from a banner at the top of our city homepage. And that call line and on that webpage have some links to information about both Comcast and Excel. So if you call our helpline, they'll be able to help you also if you're not comfortable emailing. The next question is, will air quality be monitored specifically at schools like Fireside Elementary so they can decide if outdoor recesses are safe to resume as compared with the need for outdoor time during the pandemic? City Manager Durbin?
Yeah, that would have been a great question for the prior session with the school district and Boulder County Public Health. That's where that question should really be directed.
So we will do that. We'll direct that question to those folks and make sure we get the information out. It is an important question. And thank you for asking it. We don't have the folks who could answer that right away on this particular call. So the next question is about mail. Thank you for providing the resources to meet. Can you please provide information about receiving mail for those folks who have lost their homes? Can we continue to use our mailing address during the rebuild process? So in talking to folks, if you go into the Louisville post office, they're holding your mail right now, and they can set up a PO box for you. And I'll turn it to City Manager Durbin to see if we have any additional information on that.
I don't have any additional information on that.
Thank you very much. The next question is, all areas and roads are cleared for access. Can we go see our burn areas and take pictures? City Manager Durbin?
Yes, this is what the chief talked about earlier.
I think the question is for the general public and not for people who live in the impacted area.
Then that's going to be, sorry, I misinterpreted. The hard closure areas, we're restricting those to property owners and people that are assisting them with things like insurance or evaluating their property. There's a lot of safety hazards in there, and there's a lot of debris on the roads. So we're trying to maintain that as well as keep security in place for that. So at this time, no.
Thank you, City Manager. And just if folks have, so there's sort of a two-part answer there. If you are general public, the areas are not open, and there is a process for people who live in the areas to be able to access their property. And the place you start, just to repeat it for folks, the place you start to get access to your property is over at the Ascent Church, so you can get a placard and be able to get in and out. There's a question about the main recommendations about water flushing. I'll turn it over for the City Manager to tell us where we can find that information. City Manager Durbin?
Yes, we should have all that information up on our website now. We issued a press release about the lifting of the boil order, and there should be all those recommendations on our website.
Thank you very much. And the gist of it is you're going to want to run your cold water for 5 minutes to flush the system out. Anytime you have stagnant water sitting, you're going to want to flush it through. And there's, like the City Manager said, detailed information on the city webpage. The next question is, please explain whether people whose homes have been destroyed will get adjusted property tax bill in 2022. City Manager Durbin?
Yes, we've been in communication with the assessor's office. They're currently working to adjust and really change the valuations based upon the buildings that have been destroyed, and they are working to adjust those. I understand there may be some credits, and they are actively working on doing all that work. So I think that that's on track to address your concern there.
Thank you. I think we'll post some additional information around that too, just so folks get the clear answer on that. There are a lot of thanks for our first responders in the question and answer. So I just want to say that out loud, even though it's not a real question, just a lot of thanks to the fire department and the police and the water staff for their hard work during this emergency. The next question is, I heard today at the DAC that the county is organizing demolition and cleanup for all burned communities. I think it means in the county. The question is that true? And what do we need to do as property owners? So I think that might be a good segue for our debris removal expert, but I'll let the city manager, Jeff Durbin, tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get more detail when we have our expert come into the meeting.
Yeah, generally we are working collaboratively with the county, Superior, and Louisville, of course, to put together a debris removal plan. We're working towards a comprehensive plan. We're in phase 1 right now, which is the dumpsters for spoiled food and that sort of thing. Phase 2 will start in a week or so. I believe that Darla is going to talk all this through in more detail. But the goal is to get to the phase 3 where we are removing all sorts of things all the way down to the foundation. It's all reliant upon getting approval for funding from FEMA. So we're working hard to do that and advocating for that. But we won't know for sure on that for probably a month or so.
Thank you very much, City Manager. And thank you for all these questions to everybody. And like I said at the beginning, we won't probably be able to get through all these questions tonight, but we want to thank you for asking them. And so please keep typing them in the question and answer if you have them. It helps us to understand what types of things people are going through and what types of questions you have. So there's a question that says, will there be one central place we can still bring spoiled food since the rollout dumpsters are going to end? I still have not had a chance to deal with the food in my freezer, and I think others may be in the same boat. It's been a very busy week working through home and insurance and things like that. So if we could extend and tell people where the extended drop will be, that would be useful. City Manager Durbin, do we have any kind of response on that yet?
I think that's a great question. I'm really glad we're doing this because these are questions. Some of these we haven't gotten to yet. So this is a great one. I'm making a note of this and we'll see if we can pull something off. It'll be a smaller scale, I'm sure, but we'll try.
Thank you, City Manager Durbin. So the question is, because the home was very old, insurance company is offering 50% of what was stated in our insurance policy. If we don't want to rebuild, then are we stuck with 50% or can we increase it? City Manager Durbin?
I would encourage you to go down to the DAC where the Colorado Division of Insurance has a table set up. They have a couple staffers there and they can help you work through this. That is located at 1755 South Public Road in Lafayette.
Thank you, City Manager Durbin. So that was 1755 South Public Road in Lafayette. And that is a advocacy group that can help you with your insurance. And so please do go talk to them for more expert advice than we can give you here at the city. I'm going to actually ask if my voice is coming out, but just because we've been in meetings and talking all day, I'm going to ask if another person can read the questions. It looks like Director Ritchie may be ready to do that. I saw a thumbs up.
Sure. I thought you were asking how your voice sounded.
Oh.
So let me scroll through. So the next question, many of my neighbors, including us, are reporting being underinsured, not because of city code changes, but due to the spike in labor and material costs due to the pandemic. Most of us did not think to preemptively update our policies to adjust for the pandemic-related expenses. What are we supposed to do about this? Is FEMA supposed to help? I worry that rebuilding for many will be too expensive. Will the city or state assist? Can the city or state have the option of leveraging economies of scale to contract with 1 or 2 builders to help them make the rebuilds more economical? I think there's a number of questions embedded in there, Mayor. Do you want
So
to kick them
I
out
would-
from here?
I
Or-
think I'll start with you,
Okay.
Director, and I think you're a good place to start. And then if we have others, we'll turn it to another person. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. So I think these are good questions. We're hearing a lot of reports of property owners who are finding out that their values are probably not going to align with their insurance reimbursement. So I can tell you from a city perspective, we are hearing from a number of homeowners on kind of your last question on whether or not neighbors in neighborhoods and maybe block by block could work together to hire a central contractor and rebuild collectively. Or some homeowners may choose to move forward on their own. From the city perspective, we are planning to accommodate either track for homeowners or for blocks or for entire neighborhoods to help make that as efficient as possible. As far as, it filling any of the gap, I'm going to turn that question over to City Manager Durbin if we have any information yet at this time.
Well, as mentioned, this has been clearly a theme of the day and a concern for a lot of people in the community. We've been talking to the Colorado Division of Insurance about these concerns. We've been looking at considering some different policy and code changes or something along those lines in terms of the process for people. It's a concern that I don't know that we have many more answers on at this point, but it's something that's clearly an issue that we need to be focused on.
Great, thank you. Next question. Are residents in soft closure areas allowed to live in their homes? And is this advised for heavily smoke and debris soaked homes? So I think from the building department's perspective, if you have a tag on your home, if you have a placard on your home, please reach out to us directly, 303-335-4584. And request us to schedule a time with one of our building inspectors, and they will personally visit your home with you, work through with you what needs to happen in order to come back home. As far as the heavily smoke and debris, so the heavy smoke damage homes, I think for that, most of the time that work does not require a building permit. However, you would work with a restoration type contractor in order to make sure your home is properly cleaned. That's not a process that the city has, but you can reach out to us with questions on that. Next question. There is a lot of some questions in here on water quality and how to kind of get your water system back into good, safe condition. I think as far as water questions go, I would say please visit the city's website, Marshallfire, louisvilleco.gov/Marshallfire, and look for resources on the specific questions on how to make sure your water is safe within your home. Or you can email marshallfire@louisvilleco.gov. Next question. We registered with FEMA at the DAC, Disaster Assistance Center. Are we now registered for FEMA debris removal, or is that separate? And if separate, how do we do that? I think that's probably a good point to transition over to Darla. I saw a message below that Darla is now on the meeting. So with that, I think maybe let's transition to her. Darla, are you ready to share with us? Let's see, is she on here?
I'm ready.
Great, go ahead, thank you.
Well, I wasn't planning a presentation, Lisa. I'm just here to answer any questions that folks may have. And I'm wondering if it's possible to get Bill Hayes from our public health added as a panelist real quick, because I see there are some public health questions also coming up, and he is available to join us. I was just chatting with him.
So work
I
on that.
can move
Darla,
over.
can you start with that question that was just asked by Lisa?
I apologize. Bill was chatting me trying to get into the meeting, so I did not hear the question. If you could please repeat it, Lisa.
Sure. So the question is if they've already registered with FEMA at the DAC, does that cover their FEMA debris removal request, or is that a separate process?
It is a separate process. That's a great question. FEMA has a whole slew of resources available through their application process. Since this is a coordinated regional cleanup effort that's being organized, we do ask folks to register through the intake process at the DAC through Housing and Human Services. They have a desk there at the DAC. And then we'll reach out with debris removal information and how to participate in this program.
Great. I am skimming for other questions specifically related to debris removal. In the meantime, I'm not sure, Mayor or City Manager Durbin, if you want to try and guide her on some questions that we think we've already heard while I skim.
Sure. So Darla, a lot of folks have been asking questions like, will driveways be included in coordinated debris removal? You're on mute. Darla, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Is the question about the concrete slab specifically? Yes, so those are going to be handled on a property by property basis. The slabs and the foundations need to be inspected by a certified building inspector or a structural engineer, essentially. FEMA, as of 2018, no longer automatically includes foundation removal in the private property debris removal program that we administer, but instead we have to get it inspected and justify to them that, yeah, no, this is not structural and not sound to rebuild on, so we do in fact need to remove it. But if it's inspected and it is rebuildable, of course you can imagine there's quite a significant cost savings by being able to reuse that slab or foundation.
Thank you, Darla. Another question is, will people have an opportunity to tow out a car that hasn't been totaled before the coordinated debris removal would begin? And how will they go about that process?
So
and Darla, sorry, I just saw in the chat, and I'm so sorry to the interpreters. They just asked if we could leave a bit more of a pause between the question and the answer, so they have time to interpret the question and then the answer.
Okay.
So I'll just repeat the question so they can catch up with us, which was, will people have a chance to be able to tow out a car that was not completely destroyed off of their private property before coordinated debris removal, and how will that happen?
Yes, so there are two things happening with vehicles. The vehicles that are in the public roadway or in the right-of-way will be towed during our phase 2 that's starting in the next week. And that's because Louisville needs to get in there. They need to do the street sweeping. They need to have full access for the rest of the debris removal work to take place. So if you have a vehicle that will be towed to our debris management site, which is a secure site, there will be a guard there watching the site, so the property will be safe. While there's a VIN clearance process and whatnot, and where the owner of the vehicle will be contacted by the state DMV. The other piece of it is if you have a vehicle on your private property, then we will be communicating with you, because we can't touch your private property until we go through our right of entry process and get your permission and your insurance information, as well as if you need us to look for any personal items during the debris cleanup work on your private property. In that process is where we would be handling your vehicle if it's in your driveway or was in your garage.
Thank you, Darla. And City Manager Durbin has a follow-up.
Yeah, just to clarify, Darla, there are some vehicles in the area, both on the streets and in driveways, that appear to be drivable. And there are some people that are looking to get in and get those out before that debris removal. And what we've been telling them is, as far as the vehicles on the street, get the placard and come on in. As far as the vehicles on private property, the same. Some of them may need to be towed because the insurance companies want them towed before they're driven to make sure that there's not an issue. And we're hoping to work with people on that as well. Does that sound consistent with your understanding?
It does, yes. That's a good clarification, Jeff. I was thinking of burned and destroyed vehicles only, but yes, so that's a law enforcement coordination, which we can help you with if you need.
Thank you. The next question, there are a lot of questions about various questions about personal items that may remain in debris and how people will be able to access, maybe they have a large sculpture, maybe family things, and people have sort of mixed feelings. They want to be safe and don't want to endanger anybody. And they also want to be able to get those items. Are you giving out any information about that? And if someone does, go into that process, are you considering that making them ineligible for coordinated debris removal, or is that just really something separate?
Those are good questions. Thank you, Mayor Ashley. So first, we can't stop you from going in to grab your personal belongings, but as you mentioned, there is a significant health risk of going in and sifting through any ash, debris, material. So we strongly advise against it. You can certainly hire a certified technician or a certified asbestos handler to come in and help you sift for your personal belongings. And the other option is that through that right of entry form process that I mentioned earlier, there will be another page attached with that paperwork where you can identify specific items, and our contractor can go in and retract those items for you in a safe manner, get them washed and rinsed so that if there were any toxic dust or chemicals residue on there, that it would be rinsed off and contained in the site where there's preventative measures in place for proper handling of any of that potentially toxic material. And you can reclaim your items through that process as well. It does not disqualify you from participating in the private property debris removal program. The only thing that would disqualify you from that participation is if you're going in to remove anything what is considered structural. So your metals and concretes and anything related to the building or any outbuildings that you may have had, sheds and whatnot. Anything non-structural is fine. It wouldn't disqualify you.
Thank you. And there are a number of questions around liability during the debris removal phase and leading up to the debris removal phase. What can you tell us about that, and what should property owners be doing to protect themselves from liability issues?
Well, the liability does lie with the homeowner if they're conducting their own cleanup work, and if they hire a contractor, then the liability would then fall on the contractor, of course. Once the right of entry form is signed, then that liability shifts over to the county, as we are then taking responsibility as the generator of this waste to ensure that all the regulations are followed, all the permits have been pulled, all the environmental protection measures are in place, all the monitoring is in place, and that the state is being notified in all the ways that they need to be notified.
Thank you. And then just if you could tell us, you sort of touched on this, but more about foundations. Some people, depending on how much their structure was damaged, may be able to use their foundation. Others might not at all. So how will the county, through the coordinated debris removal, work to make that determination?
Good question. We are working with our local building officials. So part of the damage assessment process that just happened included one of the teams is our building inspectors. And so they're going out, or they already went out to inspect the properties. I have not seen the data from them yet to see if it's what we need, so I can run it by FEMA, or if FEMA is going to require a separate structural engineer to go in. It's a request that I have out to ESF 14, which is our damage assessment support function at the EOC. So as soon as I know whether they have verified that information, I will know whether we need to send out a structural engineer to verify it.
Thank you. Here's a specific debris removal question from a resident on right now. I had a company van in my garage and the employer is asking to find out if their insurance company has to send someone to dispose of the remains of the van, or if that third party's van will be part of the debris cleanup.
It would, if it's on the private property, it would be included unless we were instructed otherwise. If the company wants to reclaim their vehicle, they certainly have the ability to do that.
Thank you.
I see a couple questions, Mayor, about general timelines for decision-making on the determination of FEMA approval. Darla, can you speak a little bit about what the process is to get this information completed?
Sure. So we already have approval for the public assistance piece, which is categories A and B, which is removing imminent threats, which is our right-of-way program and the first community roll-off program that we initiated, as well as the curbside suite.
Darla, if you could just pause for 1 second, the interpreter's trying to say something.
Okay.
I think Darla, if you didn't. I think, Darla, if you did not select English from the interpretation globe at the bottom, you might not have heard the interpreter.
I didn't see a selection option. Oh, interpretation?
Yep, and just select English. And she asked if you could just start that answer over.
Sure. Sorry about that. What was the question again? Sorry.
Planner Richie, do you remember what the question was?
Yeah, so the question is just describe the general timeline on the steps we need to go through with FEMA in order to get approval.
Thank you. So we already have approval for the categories A and B, which is the removal of imminent threats and the public rights of way. So the third category that we are going through the approval process for right now is private property debris removal, which is the largest component of the program. It takes about 2 weeks on the county side, which we're 1 week into. So we have a lot of the documentation being drafted already. And then once it's submitted to FEMA, it takes them up to 2 weeks also to review and send their approvals back to us. So we're looking at about a 4-week turnaround time for that approval. But there's a lot of work to be done during that 4 weeks, including not only the phases 2A and 2B work, but also all of the legal paperwork for the right of entry forms that we need to collect from every single one of you in order to have the legal authority to proceed with work on your private property.
Great, thank you. I think that covers the primary questions we have on the demolition and debris removal process. Unless City Manager Durbin or the Mayor would like to say more.
It looks like Councilmember Lay has a question or would like to make a comment. Councilmember Lay.
Just a quick comment. There was a question earlier about shifts in liability between various actors here. This is just sort of a general comment. And I am a lawyer by trade, but I'm not giving legal advice here. I just think it's really, really important if you are contracting with anyone that you're very, very, very careful about things like indemnification and the risks that you are taking on, the risks that you're not taking on, because that language can really come back to bite you. And if you have any questions, it's one of those things that's very good to ask your friends, ask others to help you with. You don't have to necessarily ask a lawyer, but I think you don't want confusion later on. And that one thing I'd also make a pitch for is if you feel in any way you are being taken advantage of, maybe it's not a scam, but just taken advantage of, please reach out. If you think it's illegal, reach out to the police. If you think and have a question about whether the business practice is sharp or whether you're being gouged, the Colorado Attorney General has a number at their consumer protection part of their website. Please go there and report it, because it's better to be, it's caveat emptor, buyer beware, and be really careful, because we don't want our citizens to be taken advantage of in this place. And there's loads of opportunities. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilmember Lay, for those great reminders. Darla, while we still have you, there are a lot of questions around very damaged trees and things like that. Could you tell us a bit about the coordinated debris removal and whether you'll include trees?
Yes, we will be including trees in our coordinated debris removal efforts. Initially, in the work that will begin within the next week, it will be the trees along the public rights of way, especially paying attention to any trees that could cause hazards for pedestrians or vehicular traffic. Then, as part of phase 2 for the private property debris removal, we will also be identifying trees for removal. And there is a process where we have a certified arborist and a monitor go along with our contractor to certify that the tree is in fact either dead or a hazard or dying or will die, just to make sure we're not removing any trees unnecessarily.
Thank you, Darla. And last question on debris removal, and then we'll go to some general questions and closing comments. People are trying to understand about topsoil that may be contaminated, and there are concerns because it snowed with contaminants leaching down, into the soil deeper than just the very top layer. How will the debris removal process go about topsoil removal or contamination removal? To what level?
Thank you. Great question. So there is one of the tasks in the scope of work for the debris removal is to remove anywhere from 3 to 6 inches, depending on the soil testing that is conducted. And that is also a FEMA requirement that we remove 3 to 6 inches of that soil from every site that is cleaned up. There's also stormwater BMPs that are in place at each site, excuse me, before the work begins to ensure that the runoff doesn't go into any waterways nearby. And I mentioned on the larger community meeting as well that we talked to FEMA today about getting that spray tacky material applied in the meantime until the debris removal work can commence, just to keep the wind from also blowing that ashy debris into the air.
Thank you, Darla. It looks like there's a question or comment from Councilmember Fahey. Councilmember Fahey.
Yes, thank you. I have a question on that soil. There are a lot of homeowners who have substantial amounts of their yards covered with rock rather than just grass or gardens. How will that be dealt with? What if the ash has gone through the rock and into the soil? What can we do?
Thank you. Another great question. The rock will also be removed as part of that scraping process at each individual site. If there's a large boulder, the boulder will be washed and tested to ensure that it is clean before the determination is made whether it will be left on site.
Thank you, Darla. And so just because we're wrapping up tonight doesn't mean we're done getting to have the wonderful services of Darla and find out questions and answers over time. We're going to get through this together. So we've gotten a lot of kind of preliminary questions out tonight, and we'll continue to take questions. If someone on staff could please read the phone number aloud for people who are not, who just don't email or don't prefer to email or get on the website. If we could get that read aloud before the end of the meeting, and just sort of raise your hand when you're ready to read it. And then, okay, great. Director Ritchie, please tell us that this is the call center number that you can call if you have questions, if you're not comfortable with the other.
Sure. If you'd like to give us a call instead of send an email, please call 720-824-3100.
Thank you. And if there are some questions, if we could please post in the chat, the contact information. And there was a question about if we could just email everyone in the meeting all the contact information. What I'll say about that is this meeting is a mix of all the different types of folks who live in Louisville. And so what we really need from people who are directly impacted with their homes that were destroyed or severely damaged, we need to make sure we have your email. So if you didn't get an individual invitation for one of the earlier meetings today, we do not have your email, and you need to contact the Marshallfire@louisvilleco.gov so that we can get your information, so we can reach out to you with all the contacts and all the people that you'll be able to ask questions and answers of. I just want to really very sincerely thank everyone for coming and for asking us all these questions. It's really important that we understand the types of things the community is facing. And the way that we find out about that is by talking to you. The council that's all here in front of you tonight is here to support you however we can. The city is here to support you however we can. Does that mean we can do everything? No, but we are going to try to help you. And we are a tight-knit community, and we're supportive of each other, and we can get through this together. I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Jeff Durbin, if he has any closing remarks.
I couldn't say it any better than you did there, Mayor. We are working diligently. We're in this together, and we will recover.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight and look forward to seeing you throughout the community. Thank you, everyone.